It's such a hot day again here in Toronto. You know, I hope that you got that recipe I gave you from Christine because I am thirsty and sweat. Oh hey! Hi! It's me, Wilma Fingerdoo, with the Fingerdoo review of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars 5, Episode 5. And before we get started, I just want to send a couple of shout-outs to my PayPal tipperdoos. I think that's what we're calling them. Vito Bocuzzi, hello again. Thank you for your tip. And look at me getting your name right twice. That's so exciting. Also, Christine Bellellen. I'm going to say it's Bellellen, but it could be Bellhelen. I'm going to say it's Gaelic or Welsh, and then it may pronounce like Sade. But either way, Christine, not only thank you for your tip, but also thank you for the cocktail suggestion. We're going to have that later today. I also want to thank Christopher Jones. He tipped me on PayPal this week. And, Denise Cherneau. Not only did she tip me, she sent me this fabulous. Actually, she sent me a bunch. There's quite a variety, but this one of me in a martini glass, very Dita Von Teese of me. I love that. I'm not sure if we're going to throw that on a shirt, or I kind of want to make an enamel pin out of it. I don't know. You let me know what you think would be more exciting to see made. And I also want to, so thank you, Denise. Thank you for taking that time and sending them to me. You're a doll. I also want to thank Charles Green. He sent me a tip through PayPal, as well as Tan Drag. I hope I'm saying that right, because it looks like drag. I want to say it's just Tan Drag. And Tan Drag, ooh. I don't tan because I'm Scottish, so I would love a little tan drag, I'm just saying. And also, finally, I want to send a shout out to Melanice Bowman, and I hope, Melanice, that's how you say your name, because that's what it looks like it's pronounced like. God bless you for tipping as well. And I also want to send out a shout out to Ron and Tom. Here they are here in their paraphernalia. They got their face masks, their Jorge Drink Me face masks, and the t-shirts. So they're on Redbubble. If you are interested in getting any of my Wilma merch, it's all available on Redbubble, and the links are down below, as well as my links for Patreon if you want to support me there, or just tip me on PayPal. Seriously. So, I think that's it. Is that it? I think that's it. That's all the announcements I had. So let's get to it. Jorge, drink me. Ooh, look at this. This is so exciting. I can't wait. Now, Christine Bellellen sent me this cocktail idea through Patreon. So what this is, and I'm just glad I had all the ingredients. Somebody's an alcoholic. It's a shot of Campari, a shot of gin. You also take 5 or so grapes. I used white grapes because they're sweeter. I figured that this might need a little help. And you muddle or crush the grapes up in the bottom of your shaker, add the gin, add the Campari, and then half a shot of lemon juice, and then a dash of simple syrup, just something to sweeten it up. This is why I kind of used extra grapes, because I didn't use simple syrup. I'm sweet enough. What do you want me to say? And then you just shake it and then pour it over ice. And there you go. Now, I added soda water to this because it was a little small cocktail, and I like a big cocktail, I won't lie to you. So let's give it a sip. Oh, boozy and summery all in the same glass. 2 of my favorite things. All right, so let's get to it. Now, before I forget, I just wanted to say these decorations, these aren't just because I'm proud to be Canadian, and they're also not because it was Canada Day this weekend. Although those are all good reasons to throw the Canadian flag around and sparkle it up a little. But no, let me move this. See, this was Canada's Drag Race started this weekend as well. Well, Thursday it started. So I've been busy. I had to decorate for that. I did my Canada's Drag Race review, which you can see online. And I just thought I'd leave it up for this one. So we'll bring that back in. And let's get to it. So we started this episode off where we picked off last week, right after Mayhem's elimination. And the remaining queens were feeling it. I'm so serious. Poor Cracker. True to herself, she was overthinking her win as usual, which I think is her way of enjoying it. India wasn't overthinking anything. 3 times in the bottom, she was lucky to be there, and she knew it, and said as much, but nobody seemed to care. They were all too interested to see who had voted for who. Needless to say, the queens were confused that Mayhem had voted herself out, and Shea particularly did not like this. She felt that voting yourself out is tantamount to letting the rest of the girls kick your ass for taking up a spot. And she's not wrong, seriously. Then the conversation turned to who the front runner was so far in All Stars 5, and the general consensus seemed to feel that it was Shea, Juju, and Cracker, because they all had wins. The rest of the queens all seemed to be filler. Well, except for Alexis and Blair, because, well, they just hadn't won. Yet. The next day in the workroom, after the girls said goodbye to Mayhem, officially, Ru dropped by to give the girls this week's maxi challenge, which was Snatch Game, yay, of love, meh. Now, before I get going, I just want to say, a bunch of us were talking on YouTube about Snatch Game, well, 2 episodes ago when we thought it would be with the 8 girls, and then they were like, well, it won't be next week, it's an odd number. Will it be 6 girls? Are they doing Snatch Game 11? We all were like, oh God, we hope not. Now, I'm not saying that Snatch Game 11 was the worst thing ever. I thought it was a good idea because it split the cast up, and so now they're only dealing with 3 of each other at a time as opposed to the whole cast trying to grab that camera attention. And so more potential of standing out, and also because they're 2 rounds, 2 winners. So I like the way Snatch Game of Love makes the playing ground a little more even. But I'm not a fan of it. I mean, the only thing I liked about it last year was Trinity's Caitlyn Jenner. If it hadn't been for that, that whole episode would have just been too hard to watch for me. And I'm not saying Manila Luzon's Barbara wasn't good. Well, it wasn't her Barbara. It was her impersonation of somebody impersonating a drag queen doing Barbra Streisand. But it was good. It was, but of the 4 left, she was clearly better than whoever else. I mean, she had to deal with Gia Gunn. Snatch Game of Love. The queens didn't care. They were just thrilled to have made it this far and quickly got down to showing each other their impersonations. Juju had a lot of choices. Well, where black turbans were concerned, her plan was to do Eartha Kitt. And I have to say, when she announced that, I thought perfect choice for her. I think she looks a bit Eartha Kitt-ish. I had no problems with it. But of course, like everyone else, I am very aware that it had been done twice before, and not very, very well. I mean, the best Eartha Kitt was Shishi DeVane's, and that was just her playing with a ball of yarn and licking herself. Hilarious. But it wasn't Eartha Kitt. And then, of course, Valentina's Eartha Kitt, which, let's all be honest, is the performance she should have kept that mask on for. Seriously. Shea was taking a huge risk by doing boy drag. Her choice, Flava Flav. And I have to admit, I was a little worried for Shea. I mean, it's not like boy drag hasn't been done before on Snatch Game, but it's only happened twice, and both times nobody thought it would go well, and then it did. Kennedy Davenport was the first. She did Little Richard, and she ended up winning that episode. Well, she tied with Ginger Minj's Adele, but Kennedy's Little Richard stole that show. Woo! Shut up! And Ben de la Creme's Paul Lind from All Stars 3 was hilarious. If you're old enough to know who Paul Lind is. But seriously, the thing though that I think both of these male characters had as impersonation choices for the drag queens is they're steeped in gay culture, and in Little Richard's case, wears more makeup than a drag queen. So Flava Flav was a risky choice, in my opinion, for Shea. And she wasn't the only one. Blair was a little nervous too, mostly because she had been eliminated her season before Snatch Game even came up. So this was new territory for our Ms. St. Clair, I declare. That's when Ru showed up to check on the Queen's progress. And her first stop was with Alexis Mateo. And I was impressed because Ru took one look at that wig and knew exactly who Alexis was doing. Personally, I thought it was Siegfried of Siegfried and Roy fame, but no, it was Walter Mercado, famed Puerto Rican astrologer who's known for his flamboyant and over-the-top capes. And once Alexis told Ru what Walter had had for breakfast that morning, there was no question that Alexis would be able to entertain the children. On Uranus, someone Ru did seem to be worried for was India, mostly because, well, She'd been in the bottom 2 3 times before, and that's not a read. It's just the truth. India was another one who hadn't made it to Snatch Game on her season of Drag Race, so she was a little overwhelmed. And I have to say, I wasn't impressed by her celebrity choice, Jeffree Star. I mean, this is one of those people who's just funny because that's who they are. They say things, they do things, they're just that person. He's got a lot of catchphrases, and as easy as those people seem to be to impersonate, they aren't. Have we learned nothing from Pheromone's Gigi Gorgeous? Seriously. Blair St. Clair was next on RuPaul's Goodwill Tour, but unfortunately, RuPaul had no goodwill for Blair's choice of celebrity, which was Ellen DeGeneres. And the only reason that she picked Ellen DeGeneres is because people tell her she looks like her. Personally, I think she looks a little more like Justin Bieber, but that's just me. But Ru wasn't impressed. And only because Blair wasn't making Ellen funny. I guess picking a celebrity you may or may not look like wasn't the smartest choice for Blair St. Clair. And, well, that was it for visits. We didn't have time for more, apparently. I don't know, because it was off to the Snatch Game. And in round 1, we saw that Ms. Cracker was playing, well, I thought it was Sleeping Beauty off the top, but no, it was Lady Gaga, and that had me worried twice. The first reason was, well, she didn't look anything like Lady Gaga. Second of all, no one has ever done a good Lady Gaga in the history of RuPaul's Drag Race, and Lady Gaga dressed up like Sleeping Beauty wasn't going to be the exception to the rule. Alexis as Walter Mercado was next, and I don't know how good her impression of him was, but who cares? Because I did not stop laughing the whole time Alexis was talking. Good for Alexis. Which brings us to India's Jeffree Star. Well, if you can't say anything nice. And who was the bachelor for round 1 of Snatch Game of Love, you ask? Well, it was none other than Tommy Dorfman, looking lovely in some upscale leisure wear. And all I have to say is thank God for Alexis Mateo. Her performance as Walter Mercado saved this scene because, well, as predicted, Cracker fell victim to the Gaga curse, which is a nice way of saying she sucked the banooch. And India was as entertaining to me as Jeffree Star is. So it was no surprise to me that Tommy picked as the winner of round 1, Alexis Mateo's Walter Mercado. And Alexis wasn't surprised. She saw it coming. Hell, I'd like to see that little Tommy Dorfman come. Then it was on to round 2 with Ellen DeGeneres, Eartha Kitt, and Flava Flav. And can I just say, poor Blair St. Clair. Not only did her Ellen DeGeneres suck some hard cheese, but she looked more like Justin Bieber to me, which I feel would have been a better choice for Blair to do. I mean, it couldn't have been less funny. I mean, paint drying would have been funnier than her Ellen. Seriously. But back to Juju and Shay. How funny were they, eh? Seriously. Now, I don't know if it's down to the editing, or maybe we lost some of it by not being in the room as it happened, but I was way more impressed with Juju as Eartha Kitt. From that first purr, to her sensual turning down of the thermostat, to her description of white noise, to her declaration of love as a frog, I never stopped laughing. I was super impressed. Here's to Juju. I am serious. Now, don't get me wrong, I may not have laughed as much during Shay's performance, but that doesn't mean she didn't do an excellent job. Because she did. She stayed in character the whole time, and I'm sorry, but her playing off of Juju was hilarious. And obviously, Bachelor number 2, Jeffrey Boyer Chapman, thought so as well, because he picked Shay as the winner of round 2. Good for Shay, too. Here you go. Seriously. Speaking of Jeffrey Boyer Chapman, what do we think of this? It bothers me. I'm not going to lie to you. It made me feel uncomfortable. I felt like I needed to leave the room. And I was in my own apartment. I'm so serious. I just didn't know where to look because there were options. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not sorry that Juju didn't win, but I was hoping that she would so that we could exorcise the evil spirit of Valentina's Eartha Kitt once and for all. I rebuke you! Because it's time. And then it was elimination day, and I should have been worried right out of the gate when Juju drew attention to her big old moose knuckle. I know she called it a camel toe, but I saw it pointing. As they got ready, Alexis and Juju complimented each other on excellent jobs for their Snatch game of love, and then moved right on to who they thought was in trouble. Well, they both thought it was India, and they weren't wrong. And then it was time for the main stage runway, and I just have to say, I love this dress on Ru. I don't know if it's because I'm an old lady, but this classic tiered hoop skirt silhouette is everything. But combined with that modern splatter paint fabric, I loved it. And I completely agreed with Michelle. When you look that good, you take your time. Seriously, let them see all of this. And joining Michelle on the judges panel, of course, was Ross Matthews, and Tommy Dorfman was there and broke some news. He told us that he used to date Violet Chachki in high school. That was before the world got their hands on Violet, I'm sure. And then Jeffrey Boyer Chapman, and geez, I wish he was an ex of mine, seriously, because then at least I could say we dated. Hey, he seems to like old ladies. RuPaul! And this week's runway category was Prom Queen Fantasy. And to get us in the mood, Ru showed us a picture from his prom. See the rubber boots? God, the 80s weren't kind to any of us. First down the runway was Ms. Cracker. And I have to say, I like this saloon Vegas prom fantasy that she had going on. But the star of her show was the acne. Oh my God, it was spectacular. I haven't seen acne like that since my brother's prom. He has terrible skin. Alexis was next in her quinceañera-inspired prom dress, and although she looked good, she really didn't bring anything exciting to the look. Maybe she should have worn a corsage. Now, I don't know what high school India Farah went to, but if she could go to her prom dressed like that, she was probably too cool to go. Seriously. Thank God Blair St. Clair was next, because I absolutely loved this tuxedo gown look. It was very Matthew Anderson. Don't tell Ru. I loved it. I liked it better with the top hat. I didn't hate the crown reveal, but I just thought it was more impactful with the top hat. All in all, this was my favorite look of the week. Here's to you, Blair. Seriously. Juju's runway took me back. The crimped hair, the ruffled dress. This is what prom would have looked like for me if I'd gone. Shea Coulee was next, and I have to admit, I didn't like this look as a prom dress. It made way more sense when she described it as that moment that Sasha Velour released her rose petals. But it was way too costumey for me. I was way more intrigued by the actual dress, the pink dress with the nude illusion, and it looked like all of that blood and rose petals was all removable. They weren't actually part of that dress. So I would have really loved to have seen, I mean, the construction was stunning, the way it cupped her bum and the bow at the back, but it's not how she wore it. And then it was time for the judges' critiques. Up first, Ms. Cracker. Bless. None of the judges seemed to like her runway, and they were even less impressed by her Lady Gaga, which gagged, and not in a good way. Alexis fared way better than Cracker. Well, first off, the judges loved her take on a prom dress, but they were blown away with her Walter Mercado impersonation. Hell, even Jeffrey Boyer Chapman tried to coin a new word for what Alexis did, which was edutainment, or edutain, educate and entertain. It's not what he said. All I heard was taint. India was next, and even though the judges all agreed that she wasn't actually wearing a prom dress, they loved the look. What they didn't love was her Jeffree Star. But then I hear Jeffree Star gets that a lot. Everyone loved Blair St. Clair's runway look, and if it had just been down to that, she would have definitely have been this week's winner, but she went and did Ellen DeGeneres for Snatch Game. And Ru all but told her not to. Seriously. As a side note, I have to say, I loved Ru's little story about how her and her husband imitate Blair's runway walk at home. Maybe Blair should have just done that. Juju B's crimped hair and drop-waist 80s party dress was a huge hit with the judges. And so was her Eartha Kitt. Jeffrey Boyer Chapman even went so far as to say it was the best Eartha Kitt in the history of RuPaul's Drag Race. He wasn't wrong. Good for Choo Choo. Which brings us to Shea Coulee, who was super worried that the judges weren't going to like her Flava Flav. And she shouldn't have worried. There was nothing about Shea Coulee on or off that runway that the judges didn't like. But what they were most intrigued by was hearing how Shea felt with the fans' reactions to her being eliminated so close to the end of season 9. I mean, if I were Shea, I wouldn't want to see another rose or petal of any kind. Ever. Seriously. And then Ru had 2 announcements. The first announcement was that Shea Coulee won this week's Maxi Challenge. Yay for Shea! And the second news was, well, that no one was safe. From this point on, in All Stars, there would be no more safe queens. You were either the top queen or you were up for elimination. Well, as you can imagine, the Untucked Lounge was a hoot. Alexis freaked out. Not only was she upset at the fact that she was up for elimination, even though she won her round of Snatch game, but Shea asking her to her face why she shouldn't vote for her after Alexis voted for Shea was a little more than Alexis was going to be able to handle. Oh, and it didn't stop there. Even though Shea said she didn't need to talk to any of the queens before she made her decision as to who to send home, India insisted. And then when she got Shea alone, well, she didn't campaign for herself. She spilt some serious tea. Scalding it was. She told Shea that Alexis had approached her on episode 3 to vote with her and Mayhem against Shea to get her off. Now that's drama. I totally believe India, and I'll tell you why. At the beginning of episode 4, right after the elimination of episode 3, and they counted out the votes, Mayhem was very surprised, not only that they were going to count the votes, but that more people hadn't actually voted for Shea. It sounded to me like she was of a mind there would have been at least 1 or 2 more votes for Shea, or else she probably wouldn't have put herself in that position. And the second reason why I think that this is true, what India's saying, is Alexis would totally vote somebody off, especially someone like Shea. It's strategy. Why wouldn't you? I mean, keep in mind, Alexis has been close to winning twice that she's been on Drag Race, with her regular season and with the first All-Stars. She got kicked out just before the final rounds both times, and so I can imagine she, like Shea, wants a crown on her head. I'm so serious. But before we could get to the bottom of it all, it was time for the queens to vote. Well, clearly Alexis and India voted for each other, but as far as the other queens are concerned, who can say? Back on the main stage, this week's secret lip sync assassin was revealed to be Vanessa Vanjie Mateo, Alexis's drag daughter, which potentially could make this whole situation awkward if, well, Ms. Vanjie has Alexis' name on the lipstick. Seriously. Okay, no offense, but I saw this as being an easy win for Shea. Not that I don't like Ms. Vanjie, but the words lip sync and assassin don't spring to mind when I think of her. The words loud and irreverent spring to mind when I think of Ms. Vanjie. This was a fun lip sync, but how could it not be? It was Madonna's Open Your Heart. I'm so serious. And although neither of the queens really impressed me with this, I was happy that Shea won. Alexis was not. But at least she got an emotional hug of support from Ms. Vanjie before Shea read her lipstick. And who did Shea vote for, you ask? Well, India Farah. And I, for one, am glad. Not because I didn't want to see Alexis Mateo go home, but because this is India's 4th time in the bottom. Who does she think she is? Roxy Andrews? So, another girl gone. 5 girls left. We're halfway through All Stars 5, if you can believe it. Who do you think is next? I'm worried for Alexis. If she lands in the bottom, which her chances of doing are greater now that everyone's in the bottom who isn't the top queen. If she lands on the bottom again, the way she's been playing this game, I think the queens will have no trouble voting her off. What about Blair St. Clair? Her runway game is gorgeous, but she's another one who needs to step it up in those challenges. I'm so serious. Well, All we can do is tune into RuPaul's Drag Race next week to find out how it all goes down. And then when you're done, you come on back and you see me so you and I can compare notes. Now, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Please don't forget to like this video. And if you'd like to support me, all the links to do so are down below in the description box. Until next week, miss me! Mwah! Seriously.